Hi. In this session, we are talking about cross-test connections questions. In an English module, you will see sometimes one or sometimes two questions that are asked about this. These questions always talk about comparison between two texts. The comparison maybe both the texts are talking about same topic or having contradictory opinions, or one text is adding upon the other. Whatever relationship you identify, you have to make sure the right answer is matching with that relationship. Point here is you have to make sure you have a prediction ready before you jump to the answer choices. That's the best way you can get the right answers for these questions. Let's understand the concept of cross-text connections using a question from one of the college board mocks. The question says, based on the texts, what would the author of text 2 most likely say about text 1's characterization of the discovery involving EGR? Remember, you always have to make sure you understand the question completely before you jump to the passage or the answer choices. So here the question is asking you, the author of text 2 would most likely say about text 1's characterization of the discovery involving EGR. Remember, the reference comes from text 1 here and the answer should come from text 2. So while working on the text, you have to make sure you read each text very carefully and note down important points. So let's start with text 1. Most animals can regenerate some parts of their bodies, such as skin. But when a three-banded panther worm is cut into three pieces, each piece grows into a new worm. Researchers are investigating this feat partly to learn more about humans' comparatively limited abilities to regenerate, and they're making exciting progress. An especially promising discovery is that both humans and panther worms have a gene for early growth response, EGR, linked to regeneration. Now, if I have to summarize the entire text, I would say the text 1 is talking about regeneration. So I'll quickly make a few points here. Regeneration, we are talking about. Then we are also talking about, can humans regenerate? And the text also says that this sounds promising. So entire passage can be put into just these 3 points. Can humans regenerate? And whatever research had been done so far, that research indicates that it is quite possible. Now we need to understand what the text 2 has to say about it. Okay, so let's move on to text 2. When Mansi Srivastava and her team reported that panther worms, like humans, possess a gene for EGR, it caused excitement. It means whatever research was done earlier, that research was definitely exciting about the regeneration of it means this can be regenerated by humans as well. That's what they believe. But the next word says, however. Now, this is very important. Transitions words are very important, guys. So make sure you pay attention to these. As the team pointed out, the gene likely functions very differently in humans than in does in panther worms. This is very important sentence. So the gene functions differently in humans than it does in panther worms. Next sentence, Srivastava has likened EGR to a switch that activates other genes involved in regeneration in panther worms. So they have done the research and identified, okay, what the gene does. It uh, activates other genes involved in regeneration. But how, again, a transition, important transition here, but how this switch operates in humans remains unclear. It means how the same thing works in humans, we do not have enough idea. So if I have to compare these two texts and say what is the relationship, then we can say relationship is definitely not in agreement. Not in complete agreement. Remember, it is not completely contradictory as well, because the work sounds interesting, the work sounds exciting, but we do not have enough work done in humans for that. Okay, so let's start working on the answer choices. Option A says it is reasonable given that Srivastava and her team have identified how EGR functions in both humans and panther worms. Now, we know that how EGR functions in panther worms, but we do not have enough information how it works on humans. So this part is not given in the text. So right answer cannot be option A. We can eliminate option A here. Let's move on to B. It is overly optimistic given additional observations from Srivastava and her team. So what additional observations we have, that humans do not have, we do not have enough information about how the gene functions in humans. So even though we do not have information, the research sounds very optimistic, because text 2 clearly starts with that the research done by Srivastava and her team is definitely causes is definitely causing excitement. So option B we can hold on, because it kind of matches with what we understood from the text. Let's move on to option C. It is unexpected given that Srivastava and her team's findings were generally met with enthusiasm. Okay, so this was not unexpected, because the work they had done, that work is not enough. So you can't say it is unexpected. And the work was met with enthusiasm, that is fine, but just because of enthusiasm, we clearly can't say that this is going to work for humans as well. So option C is definitely wrong, because whatever they received, that was not unexpected. Then option D says it is unfairly dismissive given the progress that Srivastava and her team have reported. Again, the text 2 is not completely dismissing it. So you can't say it is unfairly dismissive as well. What we know from the text, that the work is done, but the work is not yet enough to conclude that the regeneration can be done for humans as well. So option D we can cross out as well. The only answer we have left with, it is B. It is overly optimistic given additional observations from Srivastava and her team. And that's the only one that goes with the text. So the right answer has to be option B here. Remember, it is always about the point of views are of two texts, how the 2 points of views relate to each other. Okay, so it can be cause and effect relationship, or the second text is adding on to the first one, or the first text is adding on to the other one. Okay, it could be cause and effect relationship, or it could be any other relationship. So your job as a student is to identify that relationship and work around it. That's the better way to deal with these questions.